If you've been watching this channel for a while, then it's probably not news to you that I studied with two really special guitar players, musicians, teachers. One was Ted Greene, and the other was Jimmy WYBLE. And those guys shaped my playing and shaped the way that I think about music a whole lot. Even though I didn't study with either of them for a long time, I was young, really kind of just getting started on the guitar when I met Jimmy WYBLE. He was a family friend. And with Ted Greene, I was still in high school when I first took a lesson with Ted, and then took some more as the years went on. So in a way, I don't want to oversell, like, that I'm a student of Ted and Jimmy, because I only had a little bit of time with them. And to be honest, I wasn't the greatest student, really. But I did what I could. And, what I remember about Ted more than anything was his sound, just being in the room with him and hearing him play is what I still hear in my playing on a good day, more than any of his handouts on voice leading or, in any of his arrangements or anything like that. The thing that I still hear an echo of in my playing on a good day, like I say, is just the warmth and depth of his sound. That really left an impression on me. And my takeaway from Jimmy WYBLE is, I still can't play most of his etudes, but just the idea that you could break chords apart and everything didn't have to be just blocks of harmony, but that you could, chords contain melodies, and you just have to be creative with your right hand and to some extent with your left hand as well to pull the melodies out of chords that are already in there. And so I hear that in my playing, even though, like I said, I don't play Jimmy's etudes necessarily, but I always hear him reminding me, that four fingers could be four different voices, and not just to grab things. He discouraged bar chords and really encouraged freedom and independence. So, but in this video, really, I didn't want to get too carried away talking about those guys. I actually wanted to mention three other teachers who really left a big mark on my playing and in the way that I think about music and in the way that I teach. And I wanted to talk about them here because you may be less aware of them, and I hope that you would be more aware of them. I want to give them credit because they left me with as much guitar goodness, really, as Ted or Jimmy. So I'm going to mention three guitar players here that maybe you know, maybe you don't. One is Brad Rabuchin. I studied with him for a little while I was still in high school. I met him through another friend who was taking lessons with him. And he really got me to start to understand more about jazz. I thought I was starting to figure some things out just really from reading articles in Guitar Player magazine, maybe a couple of books. But Brad really could play the music, and so, I would play and I could ask him questions, and he just had so much wisdom. I remember he was the one that got me my first real book. I had no idea where to find one, and he knew where to get one, which at that time it was hard. You had to know somebody who knew somebody. You couldn't just order one on Amazon or whatever. I learned to play some bebop tunes because of Brad. I remember specifically Yardbird Suite was a tune that I learned, and I started to learn some of Charlie Parker's solo on that. But a really big thing that I got from Brad was he got me into studying minor 7, flat 5 chord shapes and arpeggios. And at first, I wasn't sure why that was so important. When I looked through the real book, I saw that there were some minor 7, flat 5 chords, but it didn't seem like a big deal. But then he showed me how that sound, whether it was chord shapes or arpeggios or just linear expressions of those sounds, those could also be used for dominant chords with different colors, and could be used for minor chords. And it just opened up a whole world of shape stuff on the guitar for me, and sound stuff for me. And I still use that stuff all the time now, and it's just baked into my playing. And it's really because of Brad that's the case. If you have not heard Brad, I'm going to include a link here to a video of him when Jimmy WYBLE's 100th birthday passed a year or so ago. Brad did this really neat solo guitar arrangement. I don't know if it was an arrangement or improvised or some combination, but he did Darn That Dream with some of Jimmy's contrapuntal style in there. So I'll include a link to that, so if you've never heard Brad, you can at least check out this video of him playing Darn That Dream. I'm also going to include a link to an earlier guitar tip video of my own, where it's called Let's Demystify Half Diminished Chords. Half diminished is another name for minor 7, flat 5. So C minor 7, flat 5 and C half diminished, two names for the same thing. So I made a lesson, this is a few years back, and I tried to demystify some of those things, and so you can check that out if you're not sure why you'd want to spend time with half diminished or minor 7, flat 5 chords. That video might give you some inspiration. So that's one teacher I wanted to talk about. And then the other two are guys that I studied with when I went to the Dick Grove School of Music in 1985. The head of the guitar department there was a guy named Adam Levine, and he taught a class called Technique and Line Development. Line Development. I'm making that harder to say than it needs to be. Line Development. Yeah. Technique and Line Development. That was Adam's class. It was a year-long class. The whole program was just a year. They weren't going for a degree program there at that time. It was just a one-year program. And so in that class, there was a lot of stuff that Adam talked about, but one of the big light bulb moments for me was something that he did repeatedly, which was at the chalkboard writing guide tone lines through chord changes. So let's say you had a 2-5-1. Instead of just saying, oh, over the 2 chord you play Dorian, over the 5 chord you play Mixolydian or whatever, he would, write in half notes a guide tone line of just like using the thirds and the sevenths of each of those chords, and then showing how you could connect them. Like the 7th of D minor 7th is C. When you go to the G7, that note C could just go to B. And then in the G7, you have F and B. F is the 7, B is the 3rd. That F could go down to E when you get to C major 7. That's the 1 chord if you're doing a 2-5-1 in C major. So you have these lines that move slowly, like these are half note lines. They sound pretty unremarkable if you just play them. They're clear, they indicate the chords, but they don't sound like jazz really. But Adam would stand at the chalkboard and start to connect these things with upper and lower neighbor tones, and include some rhythm and syncopation, and make so the rhythm would be interesting and the melodic shape would be interesting because there'd be these neighbor tones, and kind of taking the scenic route sometimes, and other times just real straightforward connecting the dots. And it was like a magic trick. He would take these very fundamental ingredients and turn them into jazz. And he could do this over and over again, and showed us how to do it. And I still think about that. I still recommend it to my students. Not only improvising. Improvising is important. We need to be able to just play off the cuff. But as you're developing your voice, as you're developing fluency with playing over chord changes, playing through chord changes, this kind of exercise is super valuable. And to do it in slow motion, not on a chalkboard, because who has a chalkboard? But you could do it on paper. If you like to work on your computer, you could do it in Sibelius or Final Cut Pro, but not Final Cut. What am I saying? Finale. Yeah. Anyway, I like doing it on paper. When I'm teaching in a classroom environment, I still do this sort of thing on a chalkboard or a dry erase board. Really great. So that's something that I learned from Adam Levine and loads of other things, but that was something that really stuck with me. So I hope that you will try that. Let me know if you have questions about that. And I'm going to include a link. Adam has his own YouTube channel. It's kind of just getting started, so give him some love. His channel is small as I'm recording this, but growing. So check it out. Give him a follow. Tell him I sent you. And then the last guy I wanted to mention, his name was Peter Butterfield. I have talked about him a little bit here from time to time. He taught a class when I was at Dick Grove that was called either Fretboard Knowledge or Fingerboard Knowledge. I can never remember. This was a long time ago. But basically, it was a year-long class that taught you how to map out the fretboard. Where are all the notes? And we learn them one string at a time. And then where are all the triads, which you map on top of the single notes once you learn all the single notes. And then how does all that work together? How do you voice lead? How do you connect things? How do you use those triads to visualize music on the fretboard and play music on the fretboard? And so I did a video kind of condensing that year-long class into a 20-minute video called Get Found, and that was on my on this YouTube channel. I will include a link to that so that you can check it out. After I knew Peter at Dick Grove, I lost touch with him, and a lot of years went by. Over the years, I tried to find him to see if he had played on some records or written any books, and I couldn't find anything. And then many, many years later, like in 2013 or 14, I reconnected with him. It's a long story. I'll spare you here, but it was really neat to see where he was at that point, which was later in his life. He has passed away since then, but he was into stuff playing with a flat pick, which surprised me because all the year that I studied with him at Dick Grove, everything was pretty much fingerstyle. But he had gotten into this rhythmic displacement thing. It really interesting. If I can find any videos of him doing that on YouTube, I will definitely share them. But in the meantime, do check out my video called Get Found, which is very much in the spirit of Peter's class at Dick Grove. So thanks for checking these guys out. I would love to know if you've studied with somebody who is kind of an unsung hero, a great player, a great teacher, a great mentor, somebody that has really inspired you. Please share here. Tell the story. If there's links that you want to include, I'd love to check them out. So thanks for watching this, and thanks for supporting this channel, and thanks for being you.